Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the first Black Girl Creative Meetup. For those of you who couldn't have come, it's all good. I'm actually going to go over everything we talked about in this video and some things that we weren't able to talk about so that you don't feel left out. I really don't record the meetups because I want people to feel like they're safe, like they can share their truth and not worry about like their information being spread to other people. But I'm here to share what we learned or what we talked about in our first meetup. So my name is Alicia Renice, and I am the creator of Black Girl Creative. And so the whole point of Black Girl Creative is to create a space for other Black women to come, other Black women creatives to come and talk about things that they want to talk about that has to do with their businesses or their art or just their everyday lives. And our four pillars are creativity, community, holistic healing, and storytelling. And so that's what all of our events, all of our meetups are always going to be centered around some either one of the four or all four. And so today we were talking about how to add more joy into your year 2021. And we had great conversations. So next time you're free, please feel free to come. We're going to have another one, February 20th, 2021. So please come out and I'll share that information soon. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is resolutions. At the beginning of the year, we always talk about all these resolutions that we want to make. We set these lofty goals and we talk about, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And so the problem isn't necessarily with us wanting to improve our lives. The problem is that, sometimes our dreams and our resolutions can be too big, right? Too big to what compared to what we're able to do now. And so the question I have for you first right now, excuse me, is what are the resolutions you set for yourself for 2021? And they could be anything. They could be losing weight. They could be, learning a new language. It could be writing a book or whatever it is. Let me know what it is. Take the time to actually brainstorm all the things you want to do for 2021. We're going to come back to this later on. But for now, just, let yourself be free and write all the resolutions you want to make in 2021. Okay. And I'm looking at my notes just in case you're wondering why I'm looking from the camera to the screen. Okay. All right, now I'm going to share with you some facts about New Year resolutions. So, by January 12th, people give up on their resolutions. Most people give up on their resolutions 12 days into the new year. 25% continue their resolutions through January 30th, and then only 8% of people carry them out to the end of the year. And so the reasons why people kind of fall off, even for myself, is that, in the beginning, I have this perfect idea of what my resolution should be. And then, like, once I fall off a day or once it's not the perfect thing in my mind, I'm filled with shame and guilt and I feel like a failure and I just want to give up everything. And so, as I mentioned before, we dream ideally. We're pumped up with inspiration and we feel limitless. But the real thing is, we are human beings who are flawed, human beings who are temperamental, and human beings who have limits. And then when we can't keep up with this idea of perfection, then we feel shame. And then we just want to give up altogether and just begin again in January 2022, or whatever year it is. And so I want to ask you a couple of questions. Okay. The first one is, how do you want to feel this year? What do you want to experience this year? What do you want to learn? What do you want to give? What would make you satisfied with 2021? That you would look back on your year and say, you know what, this has been a good year. I'm good on this. Like, what would it take for you to feel satisfied with 2021? Okay. And give yourself free time to like really work through this, to write your answers, to really think really deeply and hard about these questions. Okay. And so the next thing I want to let you know is that you're not something to be fixed. You're not something to be fixed. In this world, it's telling us, you're not enough, you're not worthy. You need to do X, Y, and Z before you can do the other thing, right? We usually don't spend a lot of time affirming or celebrating ourselves. A lot of our time is spent, pushing this narrative that we're not enough. A lot of time is spent criticizing ourselves and telling ourselves that we don't do enough, that we aren't enough. I mean, just look at your goals, right? Are some of your goals like be more fit, lose more weight? It's from a very critical lens that we set these resolutions for ourselves for the year 2021 or whatever year it is. We come from a very critical and berating standpoint as opposed to a mindset of love and acceptance and joy, right? So let's change that narrative. Our mindsets and our approach needs to be changed. Self-improvement culture, like, again, is a very expansive business. Like, they make millions, if not more money than that a year, just trying to tell people how they can improve their lives, how they can 10x their business or their income or be more productive or lose more weight or get their goals down. Like, there's so many books telling us how to be better versions of ourselves, how to improve ourselves. And so we take in all this information and then we start thinking like, oh, I am something to be fixed. I am something that's not good enough yet. You know what I'm saying? We don't let ourselves do things or dream things because we feel like we have to hit this goal first. And it's just not true. They benefit off of us feeling like we're not enough. And I'm not saying that all self-help books are bad. They're not. Some are good, but a lot of them are just taking advantage of the fact that people feel worthless. People feel like they're not good enough. And so once we get to a place of self acceptance, of love and worth, then we'll change that focus of our goals. We'll change the focus of our goals to really match that like love and that self, self worth. So we're not turning ourselves into people that we are not. We talked about in the meetup, accept the fact that you're not an early morning person. It's okay. You don't have to hack your way to 5 a.m. wake ups to do more stuff. No, work with yourself. Accept the fact that you don't like salads. Accept the fact that you don't like going to the gym. Accept the fact that you're just not interested in doing some things that other people are interested in doing. What if we actually started working with ourselves instead of against ourselves? That's the question. So if we accepted from our friends that they're not morning people, we're not going to ask them to wake up at 4 a.m. to go hiking with us, right? We would respect their boundaries. We would respect their temperament. But with ourselves, it's hard to give ourselves that same grace. It's hard to give ourselves that same space to really just be like, oh, I'm just not a morning person. It's like, no, I have to wake up at 5 a.m. because this is what all the greats do and all this stuff. And then we end up feeling less than because we can't get it when you weren't designed to do that in the first place. There are some people, again, whose bedtime is at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m. They're like getting in bed and ready to go to sleep, right? You're not going to ask that friend to go out dancing with you at 11 o'clock because they're probably going to tell you no. You know what I'm saying? And so we respect that. In the same way, we need to start respecting ourselves and respecting the fact that we are not what these people want to make us. And it's nothing wrong with that. We're not broken, right? We just have to figure out how to work with ourselves. So if you're not a morning person, maybe don't set, all your goals in the morning. Maybe you're a night owl. It's okay to start writing your book at 10 p.m. if that's your thing. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to start working out at 8 p.m. No one said that you have to follow this specific thing. It's just that the world is telling us that we have to. And we follow these imaginary rules. And then once we feel like we can't fit in that mold, then something's wrong with us. And it's not true. To accept ourselves, to accept our limitations, to accept our personalities, right? That would be freeing. You would be allowed to be yourself. Like, you're good enough already. If we walk into 2021 as friends with ourselves, our lives will be that much better. Our lives will be so much more joy filled. They'll be so much more easy, right? Like easeful, like full of ease and not like grinding and hard work, working against yourself and your makeup because God made you the way you are for a reason. He made you that way on purpose. Then, if we accept ourselves, we can remove all the unnecessary junk, all the unnecessary filth that we filled up over all these years that say that we have to act like this, do this thing, right? And we can make room for more joy in our lives, room for more things that actually resonate with us and things that actually make us feel good instead of things that just make us feel like we're horrible human beings. The question I have for you is if you didn't have to be perfect, what would you do? If you didn't have to be perfect, what would you stop? If you didn't have to be perfect, what would you start? What would you share? What would you make? These are the questions we really should be asking us at the beginning of the year because, I understand that we feel like we have to be perfect and perfectionism, I feel like it means well because it wants to protect us from people criticizing us. And the thing is like, you can't avoid criticism at all. Criticism is just going to happen, right? But at the same time, perfectionism, even though it aims to protect, it also aims to stop us from doing anything at all, anything new, anything scary, anything that might not be perfect. So then we don't end up putting anything out in the world in the first place. And so from that, we start to feel more like a failure because it's on one hand, you feel like, oh, I can't do it because it's not perfect. And then on the other hand, it's like, wow, I'm not doing anything at all. So it's a lose-lose situation in the end. And so my question is to you, if you didn't have to be perfect, what would you do? Then look at the list of things that you are doing and compare it to that list. What things are you not doing now that you need to be doing that you wish you could do if only you had the courage, if only you had the support that you needed to do that thing? And then maybe one day you can actually get the courage to stop doing that stuff because it's not serving you anymore, you know? So reflecting on 2020 and beyond, right? Let's take a life audit. So let's think about the good, right? So the questions we want to ask ourselves, what went right last year? What did you enjoy? What felt good? What brought joy? And what gave you peace? Think about those questions, right? Just make one list of all those things. On the other hand, the bad, right? What drained you last year? What makes you feel heavy? What makes you feel unhealthy? What brought up feelings of unworthiness? What did you hate or dislike doing? How did it feel when you were trying to be someone that you weren't? How, when, and where did you have to hide yourself? Or did you feel like you had to hide yourself? Okay. Think about those questions. And then really consider what you want to change in 2021. Maybe you can start here, right? Maybe you can start with the things that drained you, just don't do that anymore, or just find a way to do it less, right? To find a way to build the courage to leave that thing. In the meetup, we talked about how people were at jobs that they didn't like. And it's like, that's the thing I want to let go. That's the thing that drains me when it should be the thing that energizes you. And one other thing we talked about at work is that, being in a place too long, staying too long, really removes the ability for someone else to come and take that place that they need to be in. So while we're holding a place, just kind of begrudgingly, just kind of doing something, somebody else wants to come into that job and take your place, and they actually have a passion for it. The only way to find out what you're passionate about, to find out what your thing is to just do the things that are in your heart, the things that God gave you. And no, you don't have to necessarily lose your job to do that. But I really feel like you have to start taking that first step and have the courage to be messy and have the courage to be a beginner. And it could be little things, right? So if something from your list says, what makes you feel unhealthy? Maybe it's drinking. Okay, so maybe we can start to limit our drinking over the week, right? Maybe you're working through that, And so it doesn't have to be like this magic, oh, we're turning our lives around all together right now. It could be little steps that we take so that we're getting just a step closer to the life that we actually want to live, the life that feels free, the life that feels good, and the life that doesn't make us feel drained. So now I want you to look at that list that you made earlier, the list that has all of your goals on there, right? All the things that you wanted for 2021. And I want you to figure out what's really at the heart of your goals. So how do you do this? You look at the goal and you ask yourself why 3 times. So for me, why do I want to lose weight? Because I want to feel good. I want to feel good about my body. Why? Because I want to feel confident. Why? Because I don't feel confident and I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel beautiful. I talked about how my body now is very different than what it was 15 years ago, and how the issue isn't necessarily losing weight. The issue is really me being able to love myself and appreciate the body that I have now, and it's seeing my body as enough, and as seeing my body as beautiful, and as being able to get to know the body that I have now. So maybe my goal shouldn't necessarily be to lose weight, right? Like it could be to be healthier, but maybe my goal is to actually wear clothes that complement my body better, that makes me feel beautiful, that makes me feel good. Maybe it's giving myself a haircut. You know what I'm saying? And so earlier, as I mentioned, one of the things that made me feel drained last year was I had locks, right? And so I would retwist my hair by myself, and it was draining to me. It was draining the energy. It made me talk down about myself. It made me frustrated about the hair that God gave me, and I didn't want to feel that way anymore. So instead of just complaining about it, I just cut it off. I asked my husband to cut it off for me, and I feel great. I feel amazing. And I made more room for joy in my life that way by doing less, by taking something out instead of adding more in. And so in your own life, what are just the simple things that drain you? Maybe it's social media. Maybe you only need to spend 5 minutes on social media a day. Maybe you just need to take a whole week off, anything to just add more joy to your life and remove the stuff that actually drains you and takes the life out of you. It makes you question your value and your self-worth. So again, the issue isn't necessarily losing weight. It's really about me and how I view myself, and taking the time to see myself as beautiful now, even as I was skinny back then. So my question is to you, what is at the heart of your goals? What are you doing trying to fill a void without actually dealing with the problem directly? Because, you can achieve all the goals that you have. You can achieve all the dreams that you want to achieve in this year. But if you really don't deal with the source, then it's really not going to matter. You can achieve all the things you want and you will still feel empty at the end of year 2021. So that's why I asked you in the beginning, how do you want to feel? What would make you feel accomplished, right? And so sometimes we have to reassess what we think accomplishment or success looks like, because our happiness and our joy is not rooted in that. And if your goal is to lose weight, maybe for medical reasons or just because you just want to feel, maybe your goal is just to feel healthier, right? Maybe at the end of your whys, it's just I just want to feel healthier in my body. I want to feel less sluggish. I want to feel more free. I want less inflammation in my body. So, okay, so how can we start getting you towards that life that you want, right? So it doesn't have to be going on a 10-day smoothie cleanse or beating your body up and, running it into the ground. Be kind with yourself. You don't have to be unkind to yourself. I mentioned in our meetup how I went on a 10-day smoothie cleanse and I lost 2 pounds. And I really felt like God was like, okay, no, you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to be bulimic to be cute, to be pretty. And then also, I really feel like God was telling me to be kind to my body. That was a very unkind thing that I did to my body by depriving it of nutrients and calories for 10 days where all I drank was smoothies. And so because of that, I didn't lose any weight in the end anyway, because my body went into shock trying to preserve itself, and it held on to the weight that I had. And so, in the same way, you don't have to be harsh with your body, harsh with yourself or your mind to change things around in your own life. So, if you want to become more healthier, okay, what does that mean, right? Like, what is unhealthy about you right now? Is it that you eat a lot of fast food? Is it that, you're eating foods that don't just make you that, because everybody is different. Every human body is different. So, are you eating foods that just don't make you feel good? Like, what is it? And so, can we start to change that? So, if you eat out fast food a lot, right? Eat fast food out a lot. Okay. Can we go down to one time a week eating out fast food? Or maybe if you eat 5 times a week, go down to three. You know what I'm saying? And maybe you order, if you don't have time to cook, order from Go Fresh if you have the means to do it, right? So make it pleasurable, make it fun, and make it easy. It doesn't have to be a hard thing. And I know that this world tells us that everything has to be hard. It's like go hard or go home. And it's like, or you could just be at home with yourself and be gentle with yourself and kind with yourself. And to the example of exercising, because exercising is good, I came to a point in my own life where I was like, I don't like the gym anymore. But I still had all these gym memberships. I still was going to Planet Fitness and like wondering why I was miserable, why I wasn't seeing any changes. And it was because I was miserable. I hated going to the gym. So instead, now I play sports because I always love playing sports, and it's kind of tricking myself into exercising. So when spring comes, me and my husband will probably play tennis, or we might go swimming, or we might go walking through the woods, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be what everybody else says it has to be. You don't have to, if being cut, like with abs is not your goal, it doesn't have to be your goal. Don't make it your goal. Maybe your goal, again, is just to feel better in your own body. And there are small things that you can do every day to get you closer to feeling good in your own body. Now I want to mention talking about what season of life you're in. So just like the world, no matter where you are, there are seasons, right? And so depending on where you are, where I am, there are four. Well, in the DMV, it's kind of like two, but it's summer, winter, spring, and fall. And so in the summer, this is really the time for you to like have fun, and like the heat is like pumped high. In the fall, like the leaves are changing, they're beautiful. They're making space, they're making room in the trees so that they can get ready for winter. In winter, there's snow, and the snow kills the germs in the air. And then there's spring, where beauty is just like abundant. It's just everywhere. And so is allergies. And the same thing is true for your own life, right? So every season in your life is different, but they all have beauty. They all have importance, and they all have things that benefit you. So, for example, in your winter time, right? It's winter now, so it's a restful season. So people usually hibernate or some sort of form of it. They usually cozy. They're in the house. They're not going out much. And so just like the bare trees in the springtime, in the fall, they let go of the leaves. They let go of the leaves because they can't sustain the leaves in the winter. There's less sunlight, and that's what leaves usually, they take the sunlight, photosynthesis, and they turn that into energy. And so in the winter, there's less sunlight. It's normally more dry and cold. And so because of that, the trees know this in autumn that the winter is coming. And so they let go of their leaves because they don't have enough water or food or energy to send back out to the leaves so that it can be healthy. So what does the trees do? They shed. And so in the same thing in our own life, in the wintertime, it might look like there's nothing going on above the surface. It might not look like anything's happening, but rest is productive. Taking time for yourself, taking time to recuperate and to heal and to just like tuck away and get quiet is beneficial for creating anything, for creating a life that you love, but also for creating art. There are seasons as artists that they go through, right? So some seasons it's like, yes, I'm producing, then it's yes, I'm marketing. And then there's, I'm not doing anything. And so a lot of artists freak out and they feel like, oh no, my creativity's gone, like it's all the stuff. Or like business people, like we're in a drought, everything sucks. But it's like, no, you're just in a different season. And so in a season, you probably have to do less. In winter, you might have to do less because there's less resources. I'm also a photographer, right? So I know that winter time is not, unless it's around the holidays, is not really a busy time to like gain clients because nobody wants to go outside and take pictures in the cold. And so because of that, right, I know that during the summer and the fall, I need to collect all the money I can to preserve or in reserve, sorry, so that I have money into the winter season. And much like in the winter of your life, sometimes you just need to do less and just be okay with resting your land, right? You can't expect, flowers to bloom in March. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't expect flowers to bloom in a snowstorm. That would be cruel. That'd be cruel to that plant, right? In the same way, you can't expect yourself to be as productive as you would if you're in your winter season. And so be okay with resting your land. Be okay with being still. Be okay with contemplation and pausing and just cozying and just taking care of yourself. In the spring of your life, That's really the time for like new birth and inspiration and like budding curiosity and beginning something and being an amateur at something, meaning you're doing it for the pleasure of it and not necessarily to make money from it. It's really about preparation and learning and admiring and becoming infatuated with something. And so in the summer of your life, you might be working hard. You might be, like partying and celebrating and like communing with other people. You might be playing around and connecting with others. And in the fall, like working hard, right? And in the fall, it might be time for harvest, which means that all the work you did in spring, all the work you did in summer of your life, right? And again, it's not just one life, one cycle for one life. It's like there are many cycles. And sometimes you'll go from fall to spring. Sometimes you go to summer to winter. It really depends on what you need in your life right now. And so in the fall, you're celebrating, you're winding down, you're starting to shed the leaves. You're really figuring out what's essential, what's necessary to go into the next season of winter. And you're wrapping up stuff, you're preparing for winter, and you're giving away what you've grown. So you might sell it, but you also just might give it away just for the sake of giving it away. And so, honestly, what I forgot to mention in our meetup is that some years you don't produce. So, if you're a farmer, or if you know someone who farms, you can't work your land every year because every time you work your land, meaning that you plant seeds and then you have a harvest, you lose nutrients. And so, a lot of farmers, for some years, they might do like every other year where you let the land rest and you don't do anything to it at all because they know if they keep putting plants into there, the soil's going to be lacking richness. Like it's going to be kind of like dead soil. And then you come up with dead fruit. And so, in the same way in your life, you don't want to force something when it's not the time, it's not the season, and just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff because it's not going to have any meat to it. It's not going to have any nutrients to it. And you're just going to be exhausted because you should have just been resting your land. So, my question to you is what season of life are you in right now? Is it spring? Is it summer? Is it winter? Is it fall? And how can you best honor yourself in that season? How can you honor that season and see the beauty of that season? So, while you might be not be able to be as productive as you would be in the summer, maybe you're in your winter time, maybe just see the beauty in resting, the beauty in not doing anything at all, the beauty in just spending time with your family and your loved ones and be okay with that. The world will tell you that you have to make, do, but you're not a machine, you're a person. And people, living organisms, work in cycles and they work in seasons. And so, because you are a living organism, you need seasons of rest, you need seasons of inspiration and just like being in love and infatuated with something. And you need a season for work in order to reap a harvest. So, I also want to talk about capacity, right? So, my cup, right now, the water is here. It has the capacity for a lot more. But if my cup was filled to the brim, I'd be really gentle with it because it would have the ability to spill over, right? In the same way in our own lives, if we're not careful, we will fill our cups to the brim with activities, with goals, and all this other stuff that we have to move so carefully because if not, we'll spill over and like make a mess. So, what does that look like? That could look like you or your friends or your spouse asking you for something and you look at them as an annoyance instead of seeing them as a gift. While people can be annoying, to be fair, you don't want to feel annoyed with your person all the time. And so if you are, then something might be out of balance. Something might be overworked, right? Something might be full to the brim. And so the reason why you want to have more room for capacity to like take in things is because you don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to be at a point in your life where if anything goes awry, it all spills out. It all comes out. It all spills over. And we overload ourselves all the time. And so I want to say that this is important because, what's the point of doing something you love and being stressed out? Right? Wouldn't it be better that like if you were working on something and your friend called you and needed you could just come to their aid without feeling any like regret about leaving behind your art or anything like that? Make more room in your life and you will experience more joy, right? And so we're taking away all the stuff that makes us heavy, burdened, questioning our worth, angry, all that stuff. And then we're actually going to replace it with stuff that makes us feel good. So those two lists are important right now to figure out what's at the brim. And then also understand that not everything that you have to remove right now is bad. Some things are good things, but they're just not the time for it. It's just not space for it right now. And that's okay. What you can do is what I do: sticky notes or something, write down your ideas, keep it near you, keep it safe so that when you do have the capacity for it, or a notebook, right? So that when you do have the capacity for it, you can do the thing and give it the effort and the attention that it really needs so that you're not split, your attention is not split. So my question to you is, what capacity are you at right now? Is there lots of room? Are you comfortable? Are you filled to the brim, like on the edge, Or are you overwhelmed where you're just like running over, right? You don't have to live like that anymore. Let's start this now. Let's start doing the work now. What if we did less this year? What if, instead of trying to fix ourselves to do more, we just honored where we were in our life right now. We honored our capacity. We honored the people in our lives, the attention that other people need, the attention that our work might need, or whatever it is. And we just said, you know what? I'm not in a place where I can do all that right now, and be okay with that, and work within our margins and work within, our cup, so to speak. What if we did that? Think of a cluttered room. When a room is cluttered, you can't think, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't breathe. Let's declutter our lives. Like look at my bookshelf back here, right? This first one is filled. What am I doing? It's filled with no, with books. And so the problem with that is that if I wanted another book, I can't put another book there because I would have nowhere to place it. It would be overwhelming. It'd be really messy. Like, who knows? Who knows what would happen, right? But if I had more space, I have more opportunities for more good things to come in. So if I put out, and it's, again, these books are great, but if it's not necessary right now, if it's not serving me right now, if it's not imperative, I can move those books and put in books that are actually imperative to me and speaking to my life in this moment in the season. To experience a great new year, you don't need to jam pack your schedule with more to do lists. You don't need to, have this huge list of goals, like 50 million goals that you want to achieve. That's not really the key to a more joyful life. Joyful life has space, it has room, it has time, it has what's essential, and it has intention. And so we have to be clear about what our intentions are. And so once we have in our mind what we want to feel for the year, what we want to do for the year, anything else that's not serving that has to go. It has to go. So if you're trying to live a sober life, for example, say you're trying to be sober and, maybe you can't hang out with your friends at the bar anymore. Maybe you can't go to happy hour because that's not serving your mission. That's not serving your goal. Or maybe just telling your friend, hey, this is my boundary. I'm trying to remain sober for, the rest of the year or just because just in life in general. And so your friends will honor that, because they love you, they will honor like what you're saying to them. And so you setting that boundary is setting yourself up to win because now they can hold you accountable and now they can check in on you and be like, hey, like I thought you said you didn't want to drink when you're holding that drink in your hand. It's imperative that we are clear on our intentions. We're clear on what we want to do. We're clear on what serves us and what doesn't, even in the season and with our capacity right now. And it's important that we honor those things. We can reset our lives with kindness and ease, right? And you're worthy to experience great things in your life right now, not when you lose the weight, not when you get the degree, not when you deem yourself as worthy. Because the thing is, even if we set the bar here for like, oh, this is when I'm going to be worthy, once we reach here, we're always going to like, oh, but there's someone else doing more over here. So we reach it and then we end up never, of course, once the blur, and then we end up never doing what we said that we want to do or celebrating ourselves or being gentle with ourselves, right? Celebrate yourself even today, even in process, because you're worthy of it, because you're worthy of it. So instead of saying, when I lose weight, then I'll go on a trip or go shopping, buy clothes that fit you, that make you feel good today. Instead of saying, when I build up the courage, then I'll put that thing out into the world, right? Because the thing is, you'll never be courageous enough. You'll always be scared. Fear will not go anywhere, right? So really being courageous enough is just doing the thing and doing it imperfectly and figuring it out along the way. Instead of saying, when I get my degree, I'll start my business. Is there something you can do now? Because there are plenty of business owners without degrees. Like, are we making up these rules? Who made up these rules and who said that we have to follow them? Who said that we have to follow them? And why do we believe them? We need to change our mindset around all of that. And so the question I have for you is, how can you be more blank today? So if your intention is to feel more free, how can you do that? Can you make that your word for the month or for the year and make it your project? Make yourself your own project to really experience more joy in your own life. And how can you experience that, right? So revisit your list of the things that don't make you feel good, that didn't make you feel good in 2020. Let's remove those experiences from the list from the list that energizes you. What activities make you feel that way? So when you say, this is what energized me, how can we add more of that to your schedule, to your everyday life? Like if it's travel, right? Maybe you can't travel right now because there's travel bans and you can't go out the country. Well, maybe you can go to your local, gyms in your local community where people aren't really going to right now because they're in the house. Maybe that can feed that fire for travel, right? If what energizes you is, having parties, well, can you have a Zoom meeting with your friend during the week? Because you want community. That's what you're really looking for, right? So again, going back to those things about like, why is that my goal? Why do I want to do that thing? What am I really looking for? So again, I want to have 5 parties over the year. Okay, why? Because I want to see my friends. Why? Because I miss them and I love them and they're a part of my community. Okay, so what you really need is community. What you really need is belonging. And so instead of like, oh, well, I can have a party because you can't right now, hopefully, you can say, I want to hang out with my friends. I want to hang out with my friends and we can hang out on Zoom or like one on one at a picnic or something, something that actually works and something that's actually small enough to achieve. And so, one thing that I want to say is as Black girl creatives, there's 4 pillars again: creativity, community, storytelling, and healing. And so, I'll give you some ideas for all 4 categories for things that you can implement in your own life. So, for creativity, how can you add more creativity into your life? Can you play more? Can you start more projects and hobbies, things that just bring you joy? Can you just do things for the simple pleasure of it? Can you commune with God through creativity? 2, community. Can you make time for loved ones and friends? Can you join a group or a meetup of like minded individuals? Hint, hint. We do that here. Can you give more? What can you give? Your time, your resources, your company, your love, money? 3, storytelling. Can you own your stories, own who you are, own who God made you to be, own your story, and work with yourself instead of against yourself? Can you find a safe place to share your stories? And how can you join a safe place to be yourself and to share your stories with others? And how can you uplift other Black women creatives? How can you be a safe place for other people? And then finally, healing. How can you feel better in your body? Can you join therapy or a support group if you don't have the finances or the resources for that right now or the capacity? You know, what do you need to let go of? What can you add to your life in terms of healing? Better foods, more quality time, exercise. What would work for you? And let's set a goal this week to start implementing those intentions today. So, what I want to say here is to start small. Whatever you think you can do, have that. Have it. I'm trying to tell you, like, make it ridiculously easy for you to achieve that goal. And it's really like something I learned from other people where you kind of trick yourself into celebrating yourself. It's like, oh, if you say, oh, I want to write a book this year, right? By June, I want to finish the book. I want to put it out in the world. It's going to be amazing. And then we don't even want to write anything, right? Or we feel paralyzed because we're getting close to June and it's not happening. Instead, could you say, hey, I want to write 2 pages every day, or I want to write for 5 minutes every day? That sounds silly, right? But really, it would make more sense to write for 5 minutes every day for like a month than just 1 hour out of the week. It would make more sense, right? And again, my math might be off, but I would rather you show up every day and get in the practice of doing the small things every single day and then building on that than you just going all in right now and then losing your momentum and then feeling like a failure when you inevitably fall off because it was too much for you to handle at the time. You know what I'm saying? So for example, I want to feel better in my body. And one thing that I'm trying to do is like move my body more and exercise more. For January, my only goal is to stretch. That's it. That's all I got to do. Just come in here and stretch. And sometimes that's hard, right? So me setting a goal for myself to be like, I'm going to work out 3 times a week is not realistic for where I am right now. I have to be honest with myself. I'm not in a place where I want to work out. I'm not in a place where I want to move my body. I'm actually really out of shape right now. And so what can I do that if I did it, I would feel accomplished and I could check it off my list and feel delicious and feel like I can go into the world and do anything? It's like, oh, I can come here and stretch. It's really low key. It's not like super intense. I'm not doing yoga. I'm not doing a yoga routine. I'm simply just stretching the entire month of January. Then February comes along. I might do some bodyweight exercises. Who knows? March comes around. I might go for a walk if it's warm outside, and so on and so on. And so I build on this because I'm adding momentum instead of just going all in January just to fall off, you know? So for example, if you want to feel more connected, make the intention of going on a date each week with your friend or hang out with somebody you love. If your intention is to feel more joy, right? I just want to feel joyous, from that feeling that you said you want to feel earlier in this video. Do something for the fun of it for 10 minutes a day. Can you paint for 10 minutes? Can you talk on the phone can you watch Netflix for 10 minutes? Do something that makes you feel joy for 10 minutes a day. Or maybe just once a week. If your goal is to write a book, just say, I will write for 5 minutes every day. Or 5 minutes every week, whatever works for you, whatever your capacity is. And for whatever season you're in right now, work with yourself, not against yourself. And I know that we have these ideals where we want to be, but I really feel like it's important that we honor where we are because that's okay. We're doing the best that we can in whatever season and whatever capacity we have. Maybe it's I want to feel better in my body. So the intention is I will dress myself in a way that feels good today, every day. So it might feel good yesterday, it might not feel good tomorrow, right? Because we know as women's bodies, we fluctuate, we bloat and all this other stuff. And sometimes we just don't feel it. Yesterday I was feeling delicious. Now I look like I'm like struggling, right? But it's important that we dress ourselves, if that's how you want to feel, with care and love and kindness. And so if your intention is to decolor your whole house, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to clean my whole house, it's like, okay, well, can you just go through your sock drawer and figure out what socks you like and what you don't, and then just donate those? Start small. Start with small stuff. If your goal is to like exercise more, what does that mean, right? First of all, what does that mean? Why? What is the end goal here? The intention could be, I will move my body for 10 minutes each day by stretching or walking. Or it could say, I will try a new exercise and see what I actually like. Or it could be, I will peruse and purchase a pair of sneakers that make me feel good. And for this goal, like it sounds silly, but for this goal, it could be like, okay, this week the goal is to buy a pair of sneakers that I like, right? And so instead of saying, oh, I'm going to purchase the sneakers today, break it up into five. There's 5 days in the week or seven, but there are five days during the week. Maybe the first day could be, I'm going to Google search some sneakers I like. Then the second day could be like, I'm going to go to the store and like actually look at it, and like, then I'm going to get my money together. And then maybe by Friday, whatever the events are, by Friday, I'm going to purchase them. And that could be you adding to your exercise goal. No matter how small your goal is, doing the small stuff will make you feel worthy and make you feel like you're actually getting stuff done, and will remind you that it's the small things that makes the huge differences. So what you think you can do, go smaller. Don't go from 0 to 60, right? Make it ridiculously easy. Go from 0 to 1, 0 to 1, and then eventually you will get to 60. And of course, there's a siren going on in my background, but that's okay. So make it doable. And the thing is, like, the reason why you want to make it so small is because resistance will tell you, you don't feel like going to the gym today. And you don't feel like going to the gym today. So how can you do something small to move your body where it's still a win, right? And so then once you build your endurance, your discipline, then you can add on top of that. So it's like, oh yeah, I stretched the whole week of January, whole month of January. Now in February, I can actually exercise my body, so it works out that way. And so you celebrate yourself at every win. And I would hope that after you do get the small ones, you can still celebrate yourself. So if you exercise, go get ice cream. It's great. Like, do something that works for you and share that joy with other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, share that joy with other people, because you'll start to radiate it with other people once you feel good about yourself. How you treat yourself, everybody can see. What you think about yourself, everybody can feel. And so, not saying your goal should be to save the world, because we talked about that as well. How Black women feel like we have to save the world. That's not our goal. It should be our intention. But just by being in a good and healthy place, you do change the world. You do, because you're a better person in it. And so you're affecting the people the way that God intended you to. As we're starting to wrap up, I just want to share some ideas for you for your own New Year resolutions. So maybe you can give yourself a joy challenge. You can make a list of 52 things, simple joys that we often forget, simple joys that, we take for granted, like taking a deep breath and being quiet, or holding our children, or holding space for our loved ones, right? These joys. Make a list of 52 things that bring us joy and aspire to achieve one of those things a week. So you'll have 52 things for the whole year. So, those examples could be cooking, walking in nature, again, spending time in community, eating ice cream, sitting in silence, that kind of thing. You can also make a to live list, right? So people have like the bucket list. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So if I didn't have to be perfect, what would you do? If you didn't have to be perfect, what would you do? If it didn't have to be a thing, what would you do? And the beauty of being imperfect and being a beginner is that you get to figure out what you actually like. There's no pressure on you to be perfect. You can just like go and be like, you know what? I'm an amateur. I'm not a professional. I'm just doing this. This is an experiment, right? When we were kids, we had a science fair project where we would say, this is my hypothesis. We were given the space to like experiment and try things. And then at the end, we came to a conclusion. The problem is that as adults, we're trying to go from the hypothesis to the conclusion. But you have to go through the middle part to figure out what you actually like. So why don't you make a list of things that you actually want to try, things you want to accomplish, things that you think you might like, and then go from there, right? So I gave this example. We think that we have all the answers, but really, if God gave you in your heart, like, I want to cook. Okay, I want to become a cook. So now in your mind, you're like, I want to open a restaurant, right? So you start to do all this work, opening a restaurant, and you're going for it. And so then at the end of it, you realize, I actually hate this. I hate owning a restaurant. Maybe you could have went smaller first, right? And so by bypassing all of these, learning curves, you miss out on the fact that you actually don't want to open a restaurant. By just creating cooking food for the community, you realize, oh, I just want to bring nutritious food to the underserved community in my area. And so then you want to start a nonprofit. So now you don't even have a restaurant, you have a nonprofit helping people get the food and nutrition that they need, and the education they need, right, for the food that they eat. And you couldn't have done that with just going straight for the goal, right? By just, no, take the small steps first. And then you realize that you're actually being brought joy by impacting these people in your community. And that's the stuff that matters. And so make a list again of 52 things you want to try, right? And then try them and see what works and see what fits and see what doesn't. And then the beauty of having fun is that it doesn't have to be a thing. It doesn't have to be a forever thing. It could be like, I just want to try this right now today. So my question to you, what are things you really want to do only if you have the courage to do it? What things do you want to do for fun? Allow yourself to be a kid again, right? To play. Like things that allow you to live, play, and try new things. Like when kids are kids, they can experiment and do all this stuff. They're given all this freedom to figure out who they are. And then we believe that when we're adults, that just stops. And that's not true. Like we're still we're still kids. We're still kids at heart. We're just older and more mature and more wise. But we still have we still have that want to play and to experiment and to have fun as we did when we were kids. Add that to your life. So some examples that I have, I want to learn how to sail from Miami to the Bahamas, right? And so I want to see the Northern Lights. I want to create a community cookbook, and I want to canoe somewhere, and I want to learn to surf. Those are just 5 things I want to try this year. We'll see what happens. And so when you take those goals, right, and you break them down into more actionable items, more steps that are reasonable and kind to yourself. It would be ridiculous for me to be like, for example, the example I use is like learn to sail from, Miami to the Bahamas, right? For me to just buy a boat, first of all, I don't have that, but to buy a boat and just sail from Miami to the Bahamas, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any experience. And then I would probably fail and be like, this is dumb. I look dumb, right? When I could have broke it down into smaller steps for each month. So I have an example for one. January, I could have researched classes to take to learn how to sail. February, I could have worked to save up money for that class. March, begin the classes, maybe if it's not cold. April, practice sailing by myself locally. Then in May, practice sailing longer distance with a supervisor, like with supervision, somebody who knows what they're doing in case I mess up. In June, I can get more practice. July, more practice. And then in August, before hurricane season, I can attempt to sail to the Bahamas from Miami. And again, these are just like skeleton dates. Anything could happen. It could happen sooner. It could happen later. That's not the point. The point is to break it down into steps that you can actually like chunk down and do that are not going to take, all this courage and all this like, umph. It's like make it super, super easy. I can research classes I can take. I did that, and they have classes in Annapolis that I can take. So that's something I thought about doing, right? And so I'm not holding on to this with closed hands. It's really with open because anything can happen. But the idea is that I'm trying to make a path for myself. And maybe along the way, I realize I actually don't like sailing. So I'm not committed to this huge goal of like sailing to the Bahamas, right? Like my goal is like, oh, maybe the goal should be I want to try my hand at sailing instead of like I want to be a sailor. It's like, no, like I want to see how I feel about doing that and give yourself the grace to change your mind. So the big question for you, right? What will you do in 2021 to make more room for joy? What methods will you try? What actionable steps can you take this week to see it through? What monthly goal can you do to build on it? What weekly goal can you do to build on it, right? And then what daily goals can you do to support that weekly goal, that supports that monthly goal, that supports the year goal of what you want to achieve, how you want to feel, what you want to experience in 2021? So for example, exercise, stretching, and then moving, and then walking, and then playing sports. Like every level, every step, there's something more and more fun and more in something that's easy for me to do to build on the previous goal. And the last thing I want to say to you is that you deserve joy, right? You deserve joy. God gave joy as a gift to you. God, like joy is your birthright, right? And so your joy is healing to yourself. It feels good. People sadly when people are hospitalized, like one thing that really like gets them sometimes is just like depression. The fact that they don't have joy, they don't have purpose, they don't have a want to continue on. And what people are realizing that joy is actually like literally scientifically healing, Like it's healing to yourself. It's also healing to others. It radiates to other people. You know what I'm saying? People can feel the joy. When you're joyful and you're content and you love yourself, you love other people. You bring more joy to other people. And not saying that there's anything wrong with being sad, because being joyful is not the absence of sadness. You can still be sad and like joyful, right? We'll get into that later. But either way, like your joy is radiating to others. And so you deserve to experience joy. You're worthy. You were worthy in your mother's womb to experience joy. It's a very basic emotion that's not contingent upon what you make, who you are, where you're located, how much money you have. Like none of that stuff can take away like the fact that you deserve joy. And God gives it to you as a gift and a gift for other people. So I hope this was helpful. This is just like an overview. And again, this isn't everything we talked about in the meetup. If you're interested, please come out to the next meetup. It will be February 20th, and I'll share it soon. And if you would like to get signed up for the email list so that you get all the information and all the extra stuff that comes with Black Girl Creative, feel free. And thank you so much for your time. I really want to know like what your answers are to all these questions and what your experience is and how you plan on experiencing more joy in 2021. Okay. So until next meetup, thank you so much for those of you who came out. Can't wait to see your faces again. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. It went so well. And I will talk to you all again soon. One more note though. I apologize because a lot of people didn't get the link to the event, which I am so sorry about. I'm so sorry about. Next time I will be, even more adamant about making sure that links are working, that everything is clear. I mean, people were getting confusing emails, so I'm going to streamline it so that it's easy. And like I said, this I would never know, unless I actually tried this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I would never know unless I actually put myself out there and said, "Hey y'all, I'm going to have a meetup." Like I wouldn't know what I needed to change or how to make it better if I never tried. And so don't judge yourself on like this perfect or ideal thing you have for yourself. Be gracious with yourself. You're a beginner. You're just starting out. You're starting out this new year. Nobody knows what they're doing. So, but again, I apologize. And the next time will be more clear. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.